Hello and welcome to Big Finish Fans. Today we're doing a throwback review of a audio that was recently in a sale called Terror Firma, where the Eighth Doctor returns back to our universe after the rather mixed bag Divergent arcs series. So let's see who we've got on tonight's show, shall we?
Hello, I'm James from JR Reviews, and was my suggestion.
Hello, TJ Productions.
Hello everybody, Scarlet Productions here.
And we have Kai.
Yes, the one with the tash.
The Tash Tiddler. So, if we start off with the news, we've had quite a bit of news actually since we last did one at the end of December last year, so it's been quite a while since we've actually done one. So the big news is the monthly range. There's been some new titles released, and of course there's going to be a new trilogy of stories with the Master, much requested by many fans. So let's hear your guys' opinion on the new titles and the new Master trilogy coming out in April till June, I think.
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I really like the simplicity of the new titles because my favourite one's just the Starmen, and I think the Starmen, it just sounds like a nice little 60s episode, if you know what I mean. Just nice, simple, straightforward. And one of the ones I think is just the best is Maker of Demons with Sylve, Bonnie, and Sophie in the Mel and Ace trilogy. And I think that might be quite a little dark episode, but it's the main range, so maybe something we didn't expect. Also, some other great titles like Absolute Power with Colin Baker and Miranda, and Quicksilver, which sounds like an interesting little episode. I reckon maybe it could be a Cyberman episode, but we'll have to see. And there is 2 main range releases in December, I thought. And the Master Trilogy, none of the audios to me appeal to me. None of the audios last year appealed to me at all, to be honest. But these 3 just appeal straight to me. This will be my first encounter with Alex McQueen's Master, as I'm just too cheap to pick up Dark Eyes. And I think that he will just be a great Master. I've heard little sections of him, and he just sounds intimidating, but will he be able to stray away from me, Neil, Dad, and the In-Betweeners? I don't know. I think the best one that looks like the most appealing is Doctor Who and You Will Obey Me, which should have just been You Will Obey Me. Just the and, it just breaks it up a little and just makes it a little bit silly. I think that's the one that just sounds the best. It sounds eerie, dark. It's a bit like the Audio Master, but it's written by Alan Barnes, so we'll have to see about that. And and it all concludes with 2 Masters, which looks like a 4-part epic. I've always wondered what would happen if we had a Master crossover, so this will be really exciting to listen to. And the middle one, Vampire of the Mind. This seems like a nice little simple episode, so it's obviously going to be quite eerie. It's going to be interesting how they managed to have the 6th Doctor meet Alex McQueen's Master without Sylve remembering him in Unit Dominion, but I reckon they're just going to be going their separate ways and just all with an intertwining story, something like that.
Okay, Matt?
Was it Tom before me, or do you want to go anyway?
Well, Tom's disappeared.
Oh, right, okay, sorry, I didn't notice. Right, so I'll do the Master Trilogy first. Yeah, this trilogy looks very promising indeed. Really looking forward to Doctor Who and You Will Obey Me. I mean, it is Alan Barnes, so we'll have to wait and see about that. And but I think it's got a good premise, I think, and the trailers did sound pretty good. So I'm really looking forward to that. Vampire of the Mind seems interesting. It's got a nice sort of it seems like a gothic horror sort of setting, in a castle, that sort of thing. And I think Alex McQueen, Colin will have a good, good sort of chemistry. So I think anyway. So I'm looking forward to that. And the 2 Masters is probably the most my most anticipated of this little trilogy. As it's I think a lot of fans have always wanted to see a multi-master story. So it will be cool to see. And with Jeffrey Beavers and Alex McQueen, I think that'll be good to see anyway. As for the other main range audios and titles and stuff, which are my favourite? Don't know. Probably, yeah. I think Maker of Demons is quite a good title, really, and I am looking forward to a Life of Crime, Fiesta of the Damned, and Maker of Demons. It will be interesting to see Mel and Ace together. So yeah, some interesting stuff really to come.
Awesome stuff, Tom.
Well, after the rather terrible and underwhelming Locum Doctors trilogy, I really do hope that this Master trilogy lives up to the hype. They do look rather good, especially the two Masters. Really digging that one. It's written by John Dorney, so that's quite exciting stuff. And the April one is And You Will Obey Me, with the Fifth Doctor again. So we have the Fifth Doctor for like 4 audios, but it's by Alan Barnes, so a little bit shaky on that one. Yeah, Justin Richards doing the second one, so I'm looking forward to the Master trilogy. I just hope it lives up to the hype. But it's nice to see Jeffrey Brevis out of the Fourth Doctor adventures for a change now, and he's a very underrated Master, so it's nice to see him in other ranges like Jacob and Life at Series 11, and now he's in the monthly range. And it's going to be great to see the interactions of Alex McQueen's Master and Jeffrey Brevis' Master. And for the titles, the one I really like is the third one from the Seventh Doctor, Mel and Ace, which is Maker of Demons, might have demonology in it, so that I'm really looking forward to that one. And Absolute Power, I think that may have the Daleks in it, maybe just as a guess, with the Sixth Doctor and Constance Clark. Yeah, they're not really anything created as simple standard titles. So yeah, the monthly range is exciting so far for 2016. Does look pretty good. As 2015 monthly range has been very up and down, really, so I hope 2016 will be a lot better, to be honest.
Yeah, for me, the Master trilogy seems quite promising. Again, a good idea on paper. Whether it will deliver is a different matter. Now, I don't think Peter Davison has technically faced the Crispy Master, unless you count Light at the end. I'm not sure, really. I think this might be the first proper solo story of the Fifth Doctor and Crispy, which is exciting. Vampire Remind, I thought it would be another project story, but it is the Master, and it seems like it's merging Time the Rani and the Sea Devils, because it sort of has that vibe from the little bio, so that should be interesting to see how the Sixth Doctor reacts to Alex McQueen's Master. The two Masters, that's going to be interesting with the Rocket Men and TV movie McCoy and the two Masters, so I expect a bit of banter between the two Masters, with them trying to kill the Doctor with their various ways. The new titles, again, like everyone said, the title that really stands out is The Maker of Demons. That title just fits McCoy's Doctor brilliantly with the whole sort of gothic. I just think it's going to be a nice gothic story. And I mean, to me, I think if you put Sylvester McCoy's Doctor in the Philip Hinchcliffe era, there's just something so magical about it. I think that's why Ghostlight is such an appealing story for many people, the Seventh Doctor, because he just works in that gothic environment like Master. The other titles, Order seems a bit of a working title. I don't think that'd be the actual title. Quicksilver, I would love to see the Cybermen return in the main range, because I'm a big Cyberman fan, so it'd be nice to see them return. And the Starmen, that might be a nice little tribute to David Bowie, we don't know. Yeah, I mean, there's not much to go on with the titles as yet, but I'm sure they'll reveal the bio later on in the year. So moving on to another bit of news, we had the announcement of the conclusion of Series 2 of the early adventures. Now we've got the information for Series 3. So what are your thoughts on Series 3? James?
Oh yeah, it's me first, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've actually not listened to any of the early adventures, so it's one of my goals to actually get into them. As the Yes Men really appeals to me. I think that's like a good one. The top adores that one. But these audio sound quite good. They are recasting Barbara, if I'm right, which is going to be quite an interesting and controversial decision. So I'm just going to have to see how she pans out. Who is it voicing her? Is it Gemma Powell? Is that a name or?
Yeah. personally did her in Adventure in Space and Time, which is quite interesting because we didn't really see much of her Jackie impression in it.
Oh, that's a bit of a interesting casting choice then. So yeah, we are getting the Age of Endurance, the Fifth Traveler, the Ravelli conspiracy, and the Sontarans, which we're going to have the first Doctor Stephen meeting the Sontarans, and I don't know, I just don't think that's going to work, to be honest. I'm not really a big fan of villains meeting past Doctors before they actually were conceived in the writer's mind, if you know what I mean by that. So like villains appearing before they were created. I just think that's just going to be weird, but just the basis of it sounds a bit like the Daleks, just like the little synopsis. Really, I am really interested to hear to actually see the cover actually, because I want like a bit of a 60s redesign of the Sontarans. I have it a bit retro, a bit cheap. It would have been interesting in the 60s. It really would have worked with Hartnell. So yeah, we're just going to see what it's going to be like with that one.
Interesting stuff, Tom.
Yeah, the early adventures, it's one of my favourite Rangers so far. All the stories for me have been absolutely great from season 1 to the Yes-Men, even though I am dreading and absolutely despising the look of the black hole. And Sontarans is pretty much the black hole 2.0, pretty much. But yeah, I've forgotten 2 stories. Age of Rewardance and the Fifth Traveller, Barbara's being replaced by Gemma Powell now. And in Domain of the Void, it was just Caroline Ford voicing Barbara, which was not good at all, so I'm glad that has been changed. But yeah, season 3 looks good. None of them really are grabbing my attention. Like the second story, there's a new companion. I don't really see why with Josper, so I'm a little bit thingy about that. I have to see how that turns out. But yeah, the Sontarans, it's by Simon Guerrier. He's a good writer. Yes Man is an absolutely wonderful 10 out of 10 perfect story, and I recommend anyone get the Yes Man. It's just so great. The character here really belongs in the second Doctor here. But I don't mind villains. Well, it's just how James really put it. I don't really mind that, to be honest, because it's happened many times. It's even happened in the books with the Master appearing in the second Doctor here, so I don't really mind it. I knew this was sort of going to happen with the Sontarans, not with the first Doctor. I was thinking it would be with the second Doctor, but with the first Doctor, I'm not too sure. I'm not really dreading it, but it could turn out to be the Black Hole 2.0 if Simon Guerrier doesn't play his cards properly, but I'm a little bit iffy on season 3 of the early adventures. None of them are really interesting me. So maybe the covers might change my mind, or when the trailers get released in like many months. I have to wait and see, but I'm a little bit iffy on it.
Okay, Matt, you want to add anything about it?
Well, I'll speak what I think of the brief synopsis. I've never really tried out the early adventures. It's something I want to do in the future, but so I'll just make a brief comment. The Age of Endurance sounds, like a good sort of base on the Siege story for the first Doctor, for what it seems anyway. So the Fifth Traveller can't really comment on, but I'm interested to see what the reactions will be about, the replacement for Barbara. And the Ravelli conspiracy seems interesting, historical. And the Sontarans, I'm not dreading. I'm not sure if I'll pick it up. I'll wait for reviews to come out for that. But it's nice that Big Finish is sort of trying something out, trying something new. I don't really think the Sontarans are a first Doctor, villains to put together, but it's interesting. We'll see how it goes. I mean, Simon Guerrier's got a good reputation with like the Yes-Men and stuff, so it might surprise us, but we'll wait and see, really. So yeah.
Kai, are you there at all, or you just magically disappeared? Looks like he's magically disappeared. He's just going to be a little picture on the screen for now. My thoughts on the early adventures are, I love them, but I think this series might be a bit of a dud series because none of them really appeal to me. These ones are actually really putting me off the range, actually. because I don't feel like the first Doctor needs another companion, because I feel that while you've got the actors alive and kicking, you might as well use them. I mean, the only Doctor I think would benefit a new companion is the third Doctor, because there aren't many cast members surviving from his era. So I just think it's wrong adding another companion. Obviously, he may be a massive plot point. I know Oliver Harper is a first Doctor companion, but that was sort of very much a one-off. I'm not really a fan of adding another companion for the first Doctor, really. The Ravi conspiracy, that just sounds like a weird Pasta story, the first Doctor versus Pasta. The Sontarans, like Tom said, it could be the black hole. I mean, I've listened to the black hole and that was just a mess. I feel that you shouldn't really mess with stuff with existing stories. I know that in the Time Warrior, the third Doctor recognises them, but when I think of the Sontarans, I don't imagine the first Doctor facing them. I imagine the second Doctor, in the two Doctors. I don't think the Sontarans need to appeal. I thought we could have had, I know this might sound wrong because the Daleks are overused a lot, but I would love to see another 60s Dalek story, maybe like a little side story in between the Dalek master plan, set in between that space, with a little side mission going on from the Time Terranium Core. I think that would be a nice little story with Stephen and Sarah. But I think Sarah Kingdom's going to be an interesting companion to face for Sontarans. But it's nothing really what strikes me. It just gives me, well, it makes me sweat looking at that, because it just scares me, quite frankly. On to other bits of news. We've got Torchwood, which none of us are really a big fan of, but there's quite a bit of Torchwood news, such as Eve Miles saying she'll never play Gwyn Cooper. So what are your thoughts on the new Torchwood audios and the possibility of Eve Miles not playing Gwen Cooper again?
I really enjoyed the Torchwood series, bar a bit of Series 2 and Series 4, which wasn't really that bad. It's not as bad as everyone says, but just went on a bit too long. But if I get heavily into Torchwood again, I'll probably pick up the range, as I think the bundle for Series 1's £50, which I think is a pretty fair deal. You're essentially getting one audio for free, so you might as well go for it. And it's quite highly regarded among Big Finish fans. Sorry, but Gwen Cooper no more. That's quite shocking. They just had a big triumphant return. She's like, oh, I'm not coming back anymore. And we don't really know the details of whether she had a fallout with Big Finish, a bit like John Levine, or maybe she's just wants to move on to other stuff. Not just be labelled as, oh yeah, Gwen Cooper, like move on to other stuff. So yeah, it's quite shocking. It does seem like the Torchwood series is sort of may bring in a bit of new cast members then, a bit of a new team, which I think could work. If you properly do it as like a proper Series 5, then I think it really could work. As you know, post Series 5, it's just Jack and Gwen pretty much, and so, with the two American people who I just can't remember. Well, we're obviously not getting them back. So yeah, a new Torchwood team I think will benefit. There's some good stories that looks to be like the Victorian age, with John Barrymore, which was in Fragments. We discovered the Jack's Victorian roots, and that was one of the best parts. So I am quite excited for that. We're bringing back Susie, which I think is a bit of a silly decision, as we don't really need her, to be honest. But I'm still not really going to get pretty much into the range until I either get heavily into the series or Burn Gorman returns as Owen, because Owen's my favourite character. So yeah, Torchwood. Who knows when I'll get it.
All right, Tom.
Well, no, I'm just not interested in Torchwood. But Series 1, the reviews went down pretty well, so it looks like people are enjoying it, which is great. But I've just never got into the Torchwood series. I gave it an attempt by buying Series 1 and 2 of the DVD, but it's never drawn me in. So the audios, I'll probably never pick them up, even if the reviews are good. I'm just gonna stay away from it. Glenn Cooper away from Big Finish. I don't know if she was busy, if she didn't enjoy the experience, had a fallout with Big Finish team. Don't really know about that, but I don't really mind if we don't get the details. If she wants to do something else, then that's her choice, really. So it doesn't really mind to me. I haven't really looked in the news this series too, because Tortured is just in a range I'm not interested in.
Okay, Matt.
For Tortured, yeah, I thought the TV series was enjoyable. I mean, it's not really enough to make me delve into the audios. But I'm happy that for the Tortured fans that they've got it. But I'm not too bothered. As for Eve Miles talking about leaving, it's a bit surprising. I was quite shocked when I read it, really, because in like Comic-Con panels, she was very determined to go back to Torchwood. So I thought she would have loved the advantage of going back to do it on audio. But so it's a bit odd. I'm not really bothered about what happened. It's her business. She might be doing something else or whatever. But we'll have to wait and see what that will cause to the range. But I'm not too bothered if I'm honest. Yeah.
Right, let's see if Kai's back. Kai. No, he's definitely dead. Torchwood, for me, I tried watching an episode about a couple of weeks ago, and I just found out that I hate the series even more. It's just a thing what I physically can't watch, so the audios are definitely a no-go. I mean, I've got to be honest, the Victorian Jack story does intrigue me because I love the whole Victorian setting. I mean, I love Jago and Light, but I love the Sherlock Holmes audios. Because I think there's something so intriguing about the Victorian era, because there's so much sort of gothic stuff like body snatchers and the whole sort of smog-filled streets. There's something very eerie about it. So it'd be nice to have a past Tortured story. So that'd be interesting to get a bit more backstory on Jack, I suppose. With the really bad photoshopped cover of Jack with facial hair, I think the Other Lives cover's better, and that's like 10 years older than that cover, really. But yeah, Tortured is a range I will never get because it is just not a series what appeals to me. Now on to bigger news, what we all care about, I suppose, is the War Doctor and Leela. So take it away, James.
I'm sorry, I somehow just dragged my tab along and couldn't really press on mute. I really would have preferred Romana. It just seems a bit weird with the War Doctor and Leela. I wouldn't have been watching Batman March's 8th Doctor Series 3 with that. But Leela could be interesting. It's a bit obvious that they'll probably kill her off or something. But I just think Romana would have been a better pick. Just having Leela come back is just a little strange. And I don't know. It seems a bit too late in the War Doctor series. Have a return in like box set 2, that would have been fine. But in the fourth one's really when everything closes and comes together. We don't really need the return of a classic companion, distracting us from that. I love Leela, but I don't know. I'm not really that excited for it. I didn't really enjoy Only the Monstrous. Infernal Devices, I'm still a little bit iffy on, but yeah, I'm just a bit on the fence about it.
James, is it because of Juliet Landau? You want Juliet Landau and John Hurt together?
Oh, Juliet Landau and John Hurt would be great. That would just be dream come true. And plus, we get more Juliet Landau.
That would be interesting. I've got to admit, Romana, now you say it does seem a better fit than Leela, but we don't really know what happens to Leela within the Time War, so that's the whole mystery what will be uncovered, I suppose.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Tom,
but sorry, Tom. But I mean, like,
no, go on,
I would have had her appear like in box set 2, like earlier in the series. Like, if you're throwing in nostalgia in the big conclusion after 3 box sets, then you really just want a fully flowing story, really just no distraction. That's what I feel Leela would sort of be.
I mean, now I think about it, Leela seems like it's just a cash thing just to ensure people buy the other 3 box sets. So I just think, because there might be an ongoing arc, they'll have to buy the other 3 box sets just to hear
Yeah,
War and Leela. So it just seems like they're ensuring that people are going to pick up the series, really.
yeah,
Um,
definitely.
so yeah, Tom, Leela's your favourite companion. How do you feel about her having sort of a
Oh,
new series
one
appearance?
wonderful. Don't really think about the box set 2 and 3 you were discussing on. I think she's fine in box set 4, but I do agree. Romana would be a better choice than Juliet Lando. Yeah, that would be amazing to see her in more Big Finish. I definitely agree to that. And she isn't in that next upcoming Gallifrey release. That's Romana too, I think. And we haven't had any more Juliet Lando action until Intervention Earth, so it would have been nice to see her Romana incarnation again. But no, we got Leela. I'm happy. She's my favourite companion. So it's going to be interesting with that mystery there. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Only the Monstrous I enjoyed. Infinite Devices I'll probably pre-order very soon. But yeah, I'm looking forward to box set 4. It's quite a way away.
Okay, Matt.
Yeah, I see James's point about Romana, and also see your point too, Ben, about it being a cash thing. But Leela's coming back. I'm not really complaining. I think that is a brilliant idea to bring back Leela, and to see what's happened after Invasion Time, that sort of stuff, and what happened for Leela in the Time War. And so I think that'd be great, and especially hearing how her chemistry of John Hurt, I think would be particularly good. But about like what James said about involving her in a box set that's closing off this whole thing. I think that could possibly lead to a downside. I'm not sure, but I'm interested to see what they will do with Leela in the box set, whether they will kill her off or keep her alive or something. I don't know, but I'm looking forward to it nonetheless.
Right, let's try Kai again. Kai.
Oh dear.
He's definitely dead. or he's shaving his magical tash. Okay, for me, like I said, it does seem like a bit of a cash thing. I'm not complaining because I think Leela, people want to see what happened to hear what happened to Leela within the Time War. But I think Leela, I think personally, I would have liked to have seen her within the McGann box set because I think that would have been a better way to have Leela within the Time War. But apparently it was quite emotional when they were recording it, so that does suggest that Leela is going to die, which I suppose it is nice, but I don't think Big Finish should have somewhat that power, even if they do it, to kill off a companion. But I suppose with Leela, there is no end. We don't know where she ends up unless there is a book what explains what happened to Leela on Gallifrey. So I suppose it'd be interesting to hear, nonetheless, just have that chemistry between her and the War Doctor, because I think it'd be interesting because of the whole teacher relationship with Tom Baker, to see how it'll be 2 warriors, not a teacher and a student. So that'll be an interesting one nonetheless. Now, Big Finish have had a big sale on the story what we're reviewing, the 51 to 100s, where Terror Firma is slap bang in. So we're going to see if these guys picked up any of the recent audios what are on sale. So James.
Yeah, I spent 20 quid on the sale. I usually get my Big Finishes off sales because I'm a cheapskate, because I think a 5 is just perfect deal. And the sales are just a great way to boost your collection. Say there's a story that say if you're completionist and you're like, oh, I've got all the Divergent art besides Creed of the Chrome, and you just got art only a 5, I'll pay that. Yeah, I got 4 highly acclaimed audios. I got Scherzo, which I'm really surprised I haven't listened to, because that's supposed to be a very integral McGann episode. I picked up as well Night Thoughts, which is supposed to be a very dark story. It was going to be a part of season 27, I believe. So yeah, I enjoyed Hex Alive 34, so this will be my second encounter with Hex that I'm looking forward to. You're probably a bit surprised by that, as you guys aren't the biggest fans. I also got Timeworks, which again is supposed to be one of the underrated McGanns and possibly one of the best. So if that beats tonight's story's Terror Firma for me, then who knows? And finally, Memory Lane, which usually gets 4 or 5. It usually gets around 4 stars, 5 stars. I was looking forward to it a bit more before I ordered it, but now I'm just a bit like, So yeah, I wanted to surprise me a little, to think, because with those 3 other royalties, just kind of like, it gets like a little, it doesn't look as big, if you know what I mean. So yeah, I am looking forward to listening to them, and I'm looking forward to hear what you guys got as well.
Yeah, some interesting picks, like Night Thoughts. Yeah, I think you'll enjoy that because it's very much like Ghostlight, but you can actually tell what's going on within the story. And we all know my thoughts on Timeworks and Memory Lane. That's another good McGann story. And Scherzo, you can't go wrong with Rob Sherman. Okay, Matt.
Yeah, for me, I picked 2 McCoys and 2 McGanns. Probably 2 doctors I'm more interested in Big Finish recently. So yeah. So for McCoy, I got Red, which was sounds a bizarre story, but I'm looking forward to it. It's trailer's good and got good reviews, so I'm definitely looking forward to that. So with that, Night Thoughts was the second one. Like James, it looks good. It's like a horror McCoy, which I think works quite well, and I'm looking forward to that because that's also got good reviews and stuff. So I'm looking forward to them too. For McGann, I got Terra Firma, which we're talking about later on, and the other one was Timeworks, which does look great. And Ben, you spoke good stuff about it, so I'll look forward to those 4 audios. Well, 3 now, but yeah.
Yeah, Timeworks is like The Girl in the Fireplace, but without the fireplace and a better story, if that makes sense in a way.
Okay, cool.
Plus, it was done before Girl in the Fireplace, so you could say the new series copied Big Finish. So there we go. All right, Tom.
Well, I actually didn't do any of this sale because the rest haven't really interested me. I've got all the ones that have interested me from 51 to 100, like Scherzo and that, but I did do a relook, and I did wish there was 2 of them I did get, which is Arrangements for War, which is like a sort of a sequel to Project Lazarus, with some very strong like characterization and character moments for the Sixth Doctor and Evelyn. So I wish I got that one, and No Man's Land, but yeah, the sale went, so that's unfortunate. But yeah, I wish I got those 2, but they're the only ones. If I was going for the sale, they're the only ones I would go for, because the rest just don't really intrigue me, and the reviews aren't really great on them. So yeah, I got none of them.
I mean, that's quite a shocker for Tom, because he's normally into all his Big Finish sales.
It is.
And I will have to agree, when you look at the 51 to 100s, hardly any of them stand up, and to me, that is the weakest area of the monthly range. I mean, we've had the experimental first 50, and now you've got the rather bizarre and just crap stories in the 51 to 100s. Right, let's try Kai again. Kai. He's definitely dead, but we know which.
He's not showing up, is he?
No, he's just going to complain at us later, going, "Why didn't I speak? When did you not tell me the hangover started?"
Yeah.
But then we're going, Kai, come on. But I think the ones Kai got was Axis of Insanity, Frozen Time, Other Lives, and I'm trying to think what the other one was he got.
Night Thoughts? No.
I'm trying to think now.
I remember the picture.
Right, I don't know. What ones he got? Oh, we got the Nowhere Place, that's it.
Oh,
yeah.
underrated.
Yeah.
No, so there's Kai's little picks. For me, this sale was perfectly timed, because I just needed 5 more stories to complete the first 100. So I've managed to do that. So my challenge to complete the monthly range is slowly going. I think I've got about 31 left. So by the end of this year, I should have the monthly range. Hopefully, fingers crossed, if everything goes to plan. I picked up the last McGann story I needed to complete all the main range McGann for me, which is Care Droyer. Again, like with Divergent stories, very mixed reviews in general. Then I got ID, Now this just seems a bit of an odd story. It's got a weird politician in who's normally on the One Show, so that's going to be interesting. I got Exatron, Peter Davison's story. Wishing Beast, which that one actually has really surprised me. That's the one I really want to listen to out of the ones I picked up, because it's got Gene Marsh and it seems quite a creepy story, like a dark fairy tale, like a Grimm's fairy tale, that sounds like. And Valhalla, McCoy and Michelle Gomez. There's a reason why I left it last, and that's Missy. Obviously it's not Missy in it, but oh, I dread that one. Quite recent news, we've had the reveal of the 10th Doctor covers. Now, in my opinion, I think they look a bit crap. I mean, I'm quite glad I'm getting the limited edition because A, it's cheaper, and plus the cover looks a damn sight better than what they're actually doing for the individuals. And it's quite interesting that they're not using the new series logo, they're using the classic. I thought they would have used the traditional surfboard sort of Russell T Davies logo. So James, what are your thoughts on the 10th Doctor covers?
Yeah, I'm not really that surprised they used the almost 50th anniversary logo, as that was used throughout the 50th anniversary. You know, that shades of silver. I think that just looks better on the covers. I think they would have probably tried with the Tennant logo, but I reckon that would have been a bit too long and a bit too thin to really just fill out the cover. So yeah, I do think it does look a lot better with that logo, and I think that would have looked fantastic on the Tennant opening. Sorry, I'm getting a little bit tongue-tied. But yeah, Technophobia I think looks the best. The cover on that I just think looks fab with it's like a traditional sci-fi alien, but with a modern twist on it. I do love the little horns coming out of it, and it just looks like a nice little alien. Really, I think the smartphones just flying out is going to be good. It's obviously going to the message of it's going to be about, you know, us as a society getting addicted to technology. A bit hypocritical of Big Finish there, but very well. Time Reaver I think is a bit weird, and I think that's because the weird squid monster, I think we're just used to seeing that on a blue background as it's on the limited edition, but I quite like it. I think that's Donna from her Science in the Library outfit. Not really too sure, but I do like the use of all the being multicoloured, and it does sound like a very, very dark story as well. So obviously the tones of the story and the covers are going to contrast a little. However, it's written by Jenny Colgan, and she wrote the Legends of Ashildr book, which everyone said is a bit crap. And she wrote the first episode of the Diary of the Song. I think it was the first one, but I know she was in Diary of a Song. And I think that one was said to be the best one, but that's not really saying anything compared to the rest. And then there's the cover that's Death and the Queen. Ugh. Like, half of Donna is missing, like her head just cuts off. It's such a strange cover. The layering is all off as well. Like, if you check out the Whovian High Council Facebook page, I've done like a little rundown of all this and said that it looks like one of the 1 to 13 covers of the main range, and that has Shadow with the Scourge in, and you don't want to be compared to that. And just with the way it's all layered, it just looks really weird, it looks really lazy. The use of death, I think, is a bit of a strange choice, especially design of her, because Big Finish have already done death, and she is played by Wendy Padbury's daughter, I think. I know it's someone's daughter. I think it's Wendy Padbury, and I thought she was fantastic. So, I never really pictured her as, you know, the death that mythology is always envisioned of the skeleton. And Rose, I just imagined her as this just woman who may be a bit skeletonish, but not very full on skeletons. This is obviously going a bit with the Torchwood lore on death, and just being the generic skeleton. But I'm excited. I'm really disappointed that they're not getting Wendy Padbury's daughter back. Instead, it'll be played by Alan Cox. I don't know. I just thought that Wendy Pebbley's daughter. I know I'm just saying that. I cannot remember her name for the life of me. I thought she was fantastic in Love and War and Master. Such a missed opportunity that they never brought her back. But the 10th Doctor, I just don't like the 10th Doctor. However, it's rarely these three stories that are rarely intriguing me, as I rarely think this could get me liking the 10th Doctor. The bundle for £25, I think, is a fab deal. Save a fiver on 3 audios. And the limited edition, which is the one I'm going to pre-order, I think that just looks like a wonderful. I have the novel adaptations too, and that's just a work of art. It's one of my favourite things in my collection because just how beautiful it looks. And I think that the 10th Doctor Adventures will be no exception.
Yeah, I mean, with Jenny Colgan, whatever her name is, the Shield is pretty crap, so you can't really save a pretty crap character, really. So, yeah, no surprise there. Tom?
Well, I've not too long ago pre-ordered the limited edition in fear that it might go out, because there's only 5,000 of them, so I say, yeah, no, be quickly and pre-order it, because I think during, right about May time, they'll probably all go out of stock, so I said, yeah, get it, pre-order it as soon as possible. It's only £30, it's £5 more than the bundle, so you can throw in an extra £5 for the limited edition. Not too surprised they're not using the Russell T Davies logo, as they would have just used it on the limited edition one anyway, so not too surprised they didn't do that on the standard edition covers. But all the covers are a little bit, they could have been a lot better. I do like Time Reaver's covers, like a little similar design. If you look like in its detail, then that's like some similar design to my Doom Coalition cover a little bit, like the cogs, for example, the Thing cogs. If you've seen the cover, you know what I'm on about. But the other one's a little bit rappy, really. But Donna is trying to blend into part of Death, and it just doesn't really work out because it just looks like Donna's lost half of her head, really, so it looks a little bit off. But all the stories, Technophobia does interest me. It does. I would say that's probably the one I'm most looking forward to by Matt Fitton, so hopefully he will nail it. Time Reaver, don't really know about that one, and then the Death of Queen, that's probably my least favourite one I'm going to look forward to. But yeah, it's, I do like the 10th Doctor. I don't hate him as a lot of people do, so I'm still looking forward to the set, hence why I pre-order it. So yeah, of course it's going to be a very hyped release, so hopefully it won't be overhyped, because that would just be an absolute disaster.
Yeah, there's always a problem with overhyping stuff, and I'll have to agree, the Time Reaver cover does look the better of the three. So Matt, what are your thoughts on the covers?
Nothing outstanding. I mean, they do the job alright. Technophobia. I mean, it's bog standards, but it's quite nice. I like the use of the smartphones flying out. Alien looks alright. I like the use of the partners in crime, 10th Doctor and Donna on the cover. I think it is anyway. As for the use of the 10th Doctor they used on the side bit, I'm not sure how I feel about that, as it does look a bit fan-made. So I'm not sure. It could just be the fact that this whole 10th Doctor thing I haven't sort of really let sunk in, really. So I don't know. It looks a bit fan-made to me. I don't know, but there we go. The Technophobia is my most anticipated of the set, though. So there we go. Time Reaver, probably the best cover, I think. It's quite colourful. Donna looks a bit odd, but 10th Doctor looks alright on it. It's alright. Nothing outstanding, but it's alright. And Death and the Queen is the one that's definitely the worst. It's all a bit off, really, especially Donna. Having half her head cut off, really, it doesn't go well on the cover. 10th Doctor, he looks a bit off as well. So that that cover is particularly flawed, I think. But hopefully I'll get the limited edition set before the Tumblr fangirls pick me to it. But but hopefully get it. So but I am looking forward to it. But so there we are, really.
I don't think they understand what limited edition is, Tumblr girls. They probably think it's DVDs, so I think you're safe, Matt.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Now, my thoughts on the covers. Technophobia seems like it's going to be a bit of a rehash of the Bells of St. John, and I'm personally a big fan of that story. The alien looks very traditional sci-fi. Time Reaver, that seems quite a busy cover, and I think that's probably the most well blended within the actual set. Even though the 10th Doctor's head looks a bit like it's just been photoshopped onto a little promo image. And Death and the Queen, I can get what they're trying to do, but they've used Series 310, and no, that image has been used way too much. And I'm personally not a big fan of the Death and the Queen. So that's it for the news. That's probably most of the hangout, really. Now, because of the sale, Terror Firma has been in it, and you guys might have picked it up, and you might be wondering what are our opinions on it. And this is what we're here to do tonight, because this is quite a controversial audio. So the whole point of these throwback audio reviews are to look at controversial audios where people might be a bit on the fence on getting, and we're here to clear whether it is crap or it is just a masterpiece. So I suppose we better start off with the man who praises the story a lot, and that is James.
Thank you, Ben. I'm glad we're actually doing these little throwback reviews. As you know, me and you've been talking for a while about, doing either a controversial one or throwback, and I think us combining the two, I really do think that will work, and hopefully that people will enjoy it. Terra Firma. I think it probably was either my third or fourth Big Finish audio that I picked up. Probably it might have been the second, actually. So I think that's why I just love it so much. And it's of course my favourite audio. I think that are we just doing a basic overview of this just first, then we'll go into detail later?
Yeah, do like your initial thoughts on the actual story, and then obviously go into more detail, I suppose.
Very good. When I first listened to it, it's a bit of a confusing listen, I find, to newcomers, but if you put your head to it, then I do think it is an enjoyable story. This was, of course, intended to be a new jumping on point for the Doctor, new start, new companion, back in their own universe, and what a twisted episode they come back to. This, McGann just went through the ringer when he was the Doctor. His mind has been wiped so many times, his brain's like Swiss cheese. And of course, what the big reveal, which we'll go into later, it's so tragic, and I think that it just worked so well. And of course, it is the 8th Doctor and Davros, one of the best Doctors with, in my opinion, the best Davros, Terry Malloy. I think it just works so well. They just bounce off each other because Paul McGann and Terry Malloy, they're very intense actors. They're absolutely fantastic at speeches, powerful lines, and I really think they're literally in a room together pretty much throughout the entire story. It works so well and just flows just so elegantly. It's just how I can put it.
I mean, like you said, James, the big selling points for Doctor and Davros stories is, the Doctor and Davros having these big, long moral, big arguments, and I think this story does it rather well. And I think it just follows a great suit for the Doctor and Davros line, really, within that. So, Matt, this is also James. Are you going to speak?
Oh no, I was just saying. Oh yeah, definitely, just agreeing with you.
Alright, okay. Matt, this is your first time experiencing Terror Firma, so what are your initial thoughts on the audio?
I finished it about a couple of hours ago. I wouldn't consider it a Big Finish classic for McGann either. It's good. I mean, it's got a good premise. Davros is sort of trying to get revenge for what happened in Remembrance, that sort of stuff. I like that. I like that idea to it. But when you get to part 3, it was getting a bit confusing, and I was sort of getting lost a bit. But it's a solid story. I like what they did with it. A lot of good moments. Really enjoyed McGann and Davros. Thought that was great. And yeah, it's a solid story. Just a part of me thinks it could have been better. I don't know, because it's got a really good premise, but I don't know. It's a solid story, and I think that's all. I'll leave it at that for now.
Just blame James for like really hyping it to. Oh, just blame James for that.
No, I did like.
Kai, speak to us. Kai, Kai, we love you. No, he's definitely dead. Right, if we get hate comments saying where's Kai, he's dead.
Yeah.
All right, Tom.
Well, yeah, Joe Lidster's always been quite of a controversial writer with his three main range stories with the Rapture, Master, and Terror Firma, and yeah, Rapture's definitely a pile of shit. I'll say that straight away. And the Master, yeah, definitely works. But Terror Firma, I remember actually quite enjoying. I remember the start of it. I'm only doing this by memory. Being pretty obvious, like this party scene going on. So I remember it being a little bit odd and confusing the story. But yeah, I'm sorry. I'm trying to remember it, Ben, and it's not seemed to be coming to me very well.
All right, let's see how once James has done all his big positives, I'm sure that will trigger some of your memories. For me, Terra Firma was quite an early big finish I listened to, probably maybe the third or fourth McGanster I listened to, and I wasn't a big fan of it, so it'd be interesting to hear if my thoughts have changed on Terra Firma. So I suppose we better go into detail now on the actual story. So let's talk about characters, positives and negatives, and then I suppose we'll wrap it up with a final question on the release. So James, you've been dying to do this for many months. So take it away with your absolute love for Terra Firma.
Oh, Terra Firma. I'll first go into the characters now. This is my first and only run around with Keres, who I think Keres really shines in this audio. He's really caring, I feel. There is it's just a beautiful scene with Charlie talking to Samson. I think she was talking to Samson, and she's talking about how Keres has pretty much lost everything, lost his entire family. His father died that day, and all he wants to do is care for her. And I just think that's a very spine-chilling and powerful scene, I feel, as I just find him really likable in this. And of course, with me getting Time Works and Memory Lane, I'm really looking forward to hearing about Keres and Charlie. This was my first run with Charlie, and I didn't like her at first. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was because I listened to this probably straight after I listened to Lucie Miller as Blood of the Daleks. It was my first ever episode. I think she just didn't really live up to two very different characters. But once I've listened to more Charlie, I think it was really when I listened to Zagreus, everything just clicked. And I really enjoy her in this. India Fisher just has a fantastic performance in this. I think I think she really gets the threat of the Daleks, which India Fisher really understands who they are and like how to bring them pretty much into the 21st century. And as we know, like during probably the 70s and 80s, the Daleks they were very jokey. They were taking the piss out of quite a lot, and especially in the 90s as well, when Doctor Who was off telly. And with Charlie, a beloved character, she's met them before. She is truly terrified. I love her just trying to cover up all her emotions and just pacing back and forth, panicking, just trying to look and say, "Oh, it's okay, it's okay." And Keres just sees right through that facade, and I just think that was just a wonderful little performance by India Fisher. You really can't tell what's going through Charlie's head in this story, which is just why I think that she's just a fantastic companion. And of course, the Eighth Doctor. This is the first time in a while I listened to the proper Eighth Doctor. As recently as I listened to Dark Eyes, which is sort of the depressed McGann, then I listened to Dust Breeding and Live 34, obviously McCoy yourself, and it was just so refreshing to hear the true Eighth Doctor and the the joyful Eighth Doctor, who pretty much just laughed in the face of danger in this episode. And, I think it's just fantastic as this story, it's just really non-stop action and twist from the go. As pretty much first scene, it's them meeting Davros and the Daleks, which it's just a brilliant little unexpected little so much twist. Right, the twist starts off very light, and then they obviously keep turning and turning, and it gets to the really big twist towards the end. And with that, you really expect the Daleks to only really crop up at the end of episode 1, but just going straight in the back of the nets for the first part of the first episode, you really do get the scale. It cuts out all the crap, and you can really just get down to the actual story. And that is pretty much what is one of the reasons why Terror Firma is pretty unique audio. Again, I spoke about Davros. Davros is great. There's a little bit of a goof in the script, and it's very unsure whether Davros is in his Emperor's casing or not. And this is something that seems to be a bit of a theme in the Eighth Doctor audios. I noticed in Dark Eyes, in Dark Eyes, they never described the Eighth Doctor in his Dark Eyes outfit. They just always describe him in his velvet outfit. And in here, we get the same thing with Davros. Now, Davros is in his Emperor's chair. He should be. He's on the cover in it. However, there are just little things that just don't really make sense, like how the Doctor trips over Davros and says, "Oh, sorry, down there." That's a bit of a goof in the script, and it kind of put me off a little. And even Davros taking out the vial, which we'll pretty much get onto a bit later, isn't. Well, it was pretty much said in the Juggernauts that he was blown up and he's pretty much just the head, and that's why he's in there. But I guess Big Finish correcting their own canon, which I think they probably should, as Davros just changed casing like that. I just prefer that. I know that's just those are just little nitpicks. No one probably really cares about them, but it's just something really got on my nerves a little. But Davros Taylor Malloy, best performance as Davros in ages, pretty much. If you ask me, he has a really nice little short appearance in Remembrance, but I just think that Terror Firma is tops. It has some great lines. Davros he's quite what's the word? He's quite haunting throughout, as he's just this imposing mad figure as he's suffering from a bit of split personality, sort of mutating into a Dalek due to some unknown cause. And that's really just what the whole story revolves around. And desperate Davros really does. When he's desperate, he's at his most dangerous. And I really do think that the story just conveys it just perfectly, pretty much. I know that there's characters Samson and Gemma. Samson and Gemma. Do you want to talk about the twist now?
Yeah, go on. Might as well.
And it is revealed that, mega spoiler, that Samson and Gemma were past companions of the Eighth Doctor, pretty much after the TV movie. And Davros really just wanting to mess with the Doctor's mind. It's just he does it in such an evil and twisted way. In the opening scene, it's Samson and Gemma were entering this abandoned spaceship, and Davros is there, and he obviously does surgery on them, makes them his pretty much. And the way he just presents them to the Doctor in his own TARDIS, it's very dark and quite. It really goes to go, bloody hell, the scale's quite high in this episode. And Davros, this story, it brings back the scientific side of Davros, which is why I just love it. Because Davros, he went pretty mental after Revelation, and he just wasn't really just a straightforward character. I'd say even as far back as Destiny. Does get a little bit of resurrection, but not that much. But he rips apart the Doctor's TARDIS. Just pretty much just plants a tracker in it, and just makes the TARDIS his own, understands it. And I think that is just brilliant, as it just shows how Davros, even though he's a crippled man in a chair, he truly is just a dangerous, dangerous character. You guys going to talk about the characters? Yeah, Matt.
Okay then. Oh God. Right. I'll start off with McGann. I think. Right, I think McGann gave a very strong performance in this one. You know, he goes for a lot in the story, like James said. Um, a lot of dramatic moments. Him sort of a lot of great character moments, really. Um, which is great. I'll keep it short because I'm gonna have a coffin fit in a minute. Charlie, I'm quite a big Charlie fan, if I'm honest. I mean, I've listened to quite a lot, sort of main rage began this week during the half term. I listened to the Seasons of Fear and Shirt, so yeah, I'm a fan of Charlie, and I think in this story, I think not a strongest performance, but she, it's still good, still good. Kariz, whatever. I'm not really aware of this character. Well, I mean, I know about the character, but I haven't really listened to any audios of Kariz before this one. From what I understand, his character's been through a lot in the Divergent Universe arc. And you do get a good idea of what that is really in this story, so you can jump onto this audio, to start, and you do get a basic idea about the what this character's been through. Davros, as Terry Malloy, either way around really, was great in the story. I think I like the idea of sort of Davros mutating into a Dalek. I thought that was great and played out very well. And yeah, and this potentially could have been one of Terry Malloy's best performances, Davros. I think I really did enjoy him in this one. I mean, my favourite is Davros is Michael Wisher, so I'll always be on that side. But Terry Malloy is great nonetheless. So yeah. Do we cover supporting characters as well?
Yeah, might as well cover the characters.
Alright, so we got Harriet Griffin, which is a bit of a odd character, but humorous nonetheless. Sort of reminded me of what's she called? Mrs. Bouquet from that sitcom Keeping Up Appearances, so that was quite cool. She's a bit annoying towards the start, but you sort of get used to it, and she adds a bit of humour to the story nonetheless, really. Samson and Gemma, that sort of subplot I thought was quite nice. Interesting how they were, past companions. So that was alright. Gemma's character I wasn't really that fond of, if I'm honest. But there you go. Samson, alright, nothing brilliant, but alright. And I am a fan of the at the start of part 1, the pre-title sequence. I thought that as a start of the story, I thought was great. I thought was great, especially the bit with Terry Malloy's Davros saying, "I am Davros," and that's what starts off the story, and this gets you pumped for the story. I thought that was great. So I think that's pretty much everything I have to say about the characters, anyway.
All right, Tom. Did anything come back to you at all?
Well, there was one thing I do remember about the supporting characters, but some of them didn't really have enough time. The development for them was rather low, so I remember some of the characters not really getting the full screen where everyone's taking really center stage. So I remember something like that, but supporting characters weren't really the greatest. I remember saying that sometime when I was listening to the audio. So I thought to myself that was one of the big weaknesses of that. Can I talk about the Daleks a little bit?
Yeah, go ahead.
With them, I didn't think they were really the center stage either, because it was really like a strong thing with the Eighth Doctor and Davros, and that's really what Terror Firma was going with. So the Daleks were really just pushed aside, and they didn't really have any involvement too much. I may be wrong. Again, it's been a year since I've listened to it, but I didn't remember the Daleks doing a lot in the story, but I remember the Eighth Doctor and Davros' performance is absolutely great, and Davros actually feeling like a very terrifying character, and Terry Malloy's always a great and big finish, and he's absolutely wonderful, of course. I don't really remember what Charlie and Karis's characters are like in this audio, but yeah, it's definitely one I need to absolutely re-listen to, see if I prefer it. But from what I remember, I remembered it like probably about 7 out of 10 or 7 around there. A good story, but nothing outstanding. Yeah, it needs to be re-listened to.
Okay, your mind isn't like McGann then.
forgotten most of it. For me, the characters in this, I think this is a good story for Charlie because we see the Edwardian adventurous sort of start to crack, and we, as like James said, Keris can see behind the facade of her trying to be all upbeat and trying to keep him plodding on. And she gets a fantastic moment in part 2 about stopping Samson from doing suicide. I think that's a really good, powerful character moment for Charlie. Davros, you've got to mention about Davros. He's fighting a battle with himself, and if you've seen Lord of the Rings, he's a bit like Gollum. He's very split personality, and I think that Terry does like a really good sort of when he's does this quite calm and still voice, and then you just get these sudden outbursts what make Davros very renowned of this sort of villain, and I think that it's great that Terry managed to continue that. The Eighth Doctor, it's again a really good story for the Eighth Doctor because as the story progresses and as he gets a certain thing, we get to see the Eighth Doctor question life, and he starts to question, what happens if I do this, So we start to see the Eighth Doctor really tamper and become really messed up with once he finds out what Davros has done, and there's just some really nice sort of camaraderie between Charlie and Keris in part 1, where as soon as they arrive, like nothing ventured, nothing gained. That was a really nice moment, and you can see that this is quite a strong TARDIS team, but they've been through a lot and they're very comfortable within each other. Now there is one character which I absolutely hate, and that is Harriet. I get the point why she's there because this story is quite dark in places, which I'll get onto later in the positives and negatives. But to me, the whole sort of her character being sort of the comic relief just doesn't work. I think this story didn't need it. It just needed to stay, pretty serious because there are some big, dark concepts within the story. So you don't really need that sort of light relief just to go, oh, isn't this a lovely story? This is quite a gritty story. And it just takes me out of it. Harriet just takes me out within the story, within itself. Samson and Gemma, yeah, I really like the little opening scenes we get in the before the title sequence. So I would like to see possibly a couple of Samson and Gemma audios because there are little references to previous adventures. Maybe a little anthology release because I don't think that there is enough material to cover 2 hours, so maybe an hour to half an hour. So I think, yeah, it'd be nice to have a little story containing those two. So now I suppose we better go on to our standouts and negatives for this story. So James.
Standouts and negatives. God, this is going to be very one-sided. I think this just works perfectly well as being the true sequel to both Genesis and Remembrance, as basically it's actually quite strange as both sequels to Remembrance, War of the Daleks and Terror Firma, they're both quite diverse in opinion. So yeah, that's very interesting. But yeah, I really do think it just works superbly. It's quite satisfying, and I do like I do like how the Dalek Davros, there's just when he goes a bit mental, he starts repeating what all the Daleks said. In the final scene of Remembrance where Emperor leaving ship and just saying stuff like that. And it's quite strange, and you really could hear McGann's voice that McGann was like, okay, this guy's a bit man-shit crazy at the moment. And that really just brought the unpredictability of Davros, which is something that we needed, as the Seventh Doctor really just made easy work of Davros in Remembrance. And in this, we get the unpredictability of Davros that we had in Genesis, pretty much. And you don't see what's coming next. You don't see what's coming around the corner. So I just think it works really well on that. The amount of twists in this, you just like, oh my god, you're exhausted after you listen to after this story, because it's just such a roller coaster, pretty much. With Samson and Gemma, the reveals, I do love at the start of every episode of every part, we just hear the just adding more detail to the opening scene. It's obvious, as you said, Ben, that Samson and Gemma are very comfortable with each other, and Paul and the Eighth Doctor, Paul McGann, he trusts them to just go out onto a ship onto their own, and it really just shows how close that bond was. And it's just tragic that the Eighth Doctor really just doesn't remember those adventures he has until he has that massive brainstorm with a quite a chilling performance from Paul McGann, just shouting "I remember," and that is just so spine chilling. It's just a great performance by Paul McGann. It's like this is my favourite Paul McGann performance. I should just say, it's why I got into sign Terror Firma. It just works so well. I think characters of Samson and Gemma, they're two different contrasts. As with Samson, he is obviously their brother and sister. He went back to Earth with his mother, while Gemma became a Dalek agent. And there's just such a contrast between them. As Samson is awfully pessimistic, and he just is pretty much just cowering in fear, pretty much, while Gemma, she's this militaristic figure now, whose mind has just been taken by the Daleks, which it's quite tragic. And with Gemma, her ending, did she get a solidified ending with Gemma?
I
think
don't know really. I wouldn't really say so if you ask me, but I'll get to that.
I know that it's believed that she died, so she could come back, and it's a great little scene coming and saying, don't tell them that we found Gemma because they've already grieved. I think that it really just shows the nice and kindness of the Eighth Doctor. The Daleks in this don't really appear that much, but they do have a very interesting twist at the end of episode 3, as there's just this massive talk of the French resistance. We're in talks with the French resistance, then boom, Daleks that are just using them to hunt and kill Davros. Just like, okay, this is really where shit goes down in episode 4. It's a bit of a blockbuster, to say the least, pretty much, and very emotional. So yeah, even Harriet, I enjoy Harriet. I think she's pretty. I just think she's funny. As I think, if this episode was just completely straight dark and depressing and bleak, it would feel a bit. You'd just come out of it and just be pretty just run down. Like I was like that when I listened to Live 34, which is just completely just non-stop, just dark as hell. And after the end, you just feel, oh, for God's sake, just feel quite exhausted. I think it just broke the story up a little. I do see where you come from and takes you out of it. But I think there's a story that it just works better on multiple listens, I'd say. And even there is a bit of strained continuity with the reveal of the planet they're on, which is, of course, Earth, which is a massive reveal in the audio, and it's quite strange, as in the long game, which I believe is set in the distant future. I think it's set in the future, past Terra Firma, and of course in the long game, the Earth has grown to this massive civilization in just quite a short time. So I think that the continuity is a bit strained in this story. And then again, the Daleks invade in the Bad Wolf Partner of the Ways, and obviously the Earth has pretty much forgotten about the Daleks. So, and this seems like an integral part of Earth history. So maybe it's just going to be, you can just say, oh yeah, it was the crack in time. That made everyone forget, like the people forgot the cyber king roaming around Victorian London. So you could just say that's the reason. But it does lessen the blow of what Parting of the Ways had, which I believe aired a few months before this. So yeah, there's that. And that's just a bit of the negatives. Another negative, I'd say, a bit more Samson, but it really I thought Samson was pretty much fine, but I would like to have had a bit more of her. And with the negative, I'm just trying to think of another negative, but um, I know there's one, but I just really can't think of it at the moment. So yeah, I'll just let you guys go on.
I suppose with your point with Bad Wolf and parting in the ways with the Daleks, I suppose you could argue that Big Finish didn't know, or people
Yeah.
didn't assume Big Finish wasn't, canon. Obviously, it is now, but back then, there was that big debate whether that is the case, really. So, Matt, take it away.
Okay, right. I mentioned it, but my first standout, and the scene that's probably most memorable to me, is the pre-title sequence in part 1, with the reveal of Davros. I thought was very great. Part 1 and 2, in general, I thought was really great build-up, I thought, to the events of part 3 and 4. A lot of tension, a lot of great moments, and that's where I thought the story was at its finest, really, if you ask me. Another standout, of course, is McGann and Davros, which I sort of already mentioned, but their chemistry is great, I think, and so yeah, that has to be mentioned. The sort of taken over Earth thing, I thought that was a good concept, and apart from this one town, which was, what was it called again? What was it? Folkestone, that was it. I thought that was quite a good concept, I guess, and the reveal of Earth was interesting. What else? I mentioned some of them earlier, but what else can I say? Well, that's what really springs to mind anyway. Negatives, part 3. I didn't think part 3 was that great. There was a lot of jumping around of characters, and I didn't think that was that great. It's a bit of a cop-out resolution, if you ask me, really. I mean, it was good, but not really what I thought it would be. It was all building up to, and it was that really. So I don't know. Like James mentioned, more of Samson would have been good. I think he was a strong character with a lot of sort of troubles of his own, really. So that would have been nice to explore a bit more. But I think they did a decent job at it, but especially with the old Charlie thing. I think that was good. Gemma, I wasn't a fan of how Gemma's sort of story was wrapped up of her being a Dalek agent. I wasn't a big fan of that. And what else can I say? That's about it, really. So, yeah.
All right then. My positives are the pre-title sequence. You get that sort of mini adventure, what the adventures the Eighth Doctor had with Samson and Gemma, and I love the way the story starts. We just see straight from the bat how maniacal and evil Davros is. I think that's such a strong opening to any story. Really, I think that if you're really a big fan of continuity. And Davros, I mean, if you're a big fan of Davros, I'm surprised you haven't got this if you haven't. But it's a great continuation from where Remembrance of the Daleks left off. And I like that it's got little tie-ins from Genesis, that even now, with the Eighth Doctor, Genesis is still a prominent thing within in Doctor Who. The Doctor's speech to Davros in episode 4, that is such a powerful speech. And when the Doctor pones the Daleks, that's a great moment. And another little character moment, what I love, is the Eighth Doctor reading Agatha Christie. How British is that? You can just imagine him sat in his chair with a cup of tea reading that. I just think that's a really nice image in your head. I spoke about Charlie. This story is where we actually see Kerry starts to expand, and it's sort of the only time we say Kerry's actually expanded as a companion. I mean, other lives you do get another hint of the character, but I think he gets some great character moments. He beats up a Dalek, and I mean that's a pretty badass moment. And the Daleks, I think, even though they're not heavily involved in the story, you still feel that there is a presence of them there, and there is a sense of threat. And I love that even humans aren't safe from the Daleks, even though we can mutate into Daleks. If the Daleks get a hold of you, you can be mutated into a Dalek. So I think that's a really big, powerful, scary moment, because you think, oh, the Daleks have to be, cartilage and all that. But I think the fact is that they can use humans is quite a frightening thought. Negative for me, like I said, was the whole party sequence and Harriet. To me, they just took me out of the story. Really, I just didn't really enjoy them. We've got these really intimate scenes with the Doctor and Davros, and then you get this really story where I just zone out, and then you're suddenly back into the Doctor and Davros stuff. So they're very sort of jumpy about those sort of scenes. Really, and part 3's cliffhanger, I'm not really a fan of. If you've been following the story, it's quite underwhelming, shall we say? Because you understand with the whole French resistance and what's happening to humans and that. So it's very much an underwhelming cliffhanger. If you have followed along, I know part 3 is quite a messy story, messy part of the story, so I can see why this, part 3's cliffhanger would be quite a shocking and groundbreaking moment, but it doesn't do anything for me. So I've got 2 negatives, which is pretty good. I mean, it's better than what I said in my actual review. So Tom, if you can remember, who's there?
If he is there.
We're just getting his scarf, so let's hear his scarf's opinion. Thank you very much for that. I suppose the last question before we...
Sorry, I was just add something.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Yeah, it's something I noticed. It's something I just completely forgot about. And it's the interesting use of transitions throughout scenes. And I just think that just flows just so well. I think that makes the audio pretty much stand out, really. As, there's a scene where Harriet says something about not giving up, and then Davros says the exact same thing. For example, Davros saying, talking to the Doctor, can you hear the Earth calling out to you? And then it cuts to the next scene, it's Samson shouting, Doctor. And I just think it's so unique and brilliantly done. It doesn't do it to the point that it just gets tedious. And I just think it just works as it helps the story just flow, and really even though that all the characters really just go on their own little thing with Doctor and Davros, Keras and Gemma, Charlie and the Resistance, it just helps them just intertwine a little more, just helps them just flow a little bit more.
I never noticed that, actually. Can I come to mention it?
Yeah, I think that's actually never standard to this story. I do like how each character goes on their own little adventure in a sense. In a way, like James mentioned. I agree with that.
Yeah, that is a good point. I never noticed that, really. Tom, if you can remember, what are your positives and negatives of the story?
No, I don't think I can remember too much about it, sorry, but one of them I did remember is the Daleks not having too much, but no, so I can't really answer that.
Well, Davros has had your brain and it's become Swiss cheese on Terror Firma.
I've become McGann.
You've become McGann, you've become the sexy McGann. So before we do the ratings, just a quick question to anybody who is wanting to get into Big Finish and they're looking at this release thinking, McGann and Davros, would you say this is a perfect starting on point for the 8th Doctor, or would you say it's a good one to start off in Big Finish in general? For James.
Good question.
I will always say the best place to start off with Big Finish, just in general, is Blood of the Daleks. And I just think there is just a perfect starting point. New companion, pretty much new Doctor, brand new story arc. That is the place you want to go. But and there you go. It's just a fantastic little two-parter. But with Terror Firma, have it as your introduction. I would say if you're willing to pay attention, if you're just willing to pay attention to what's going on, I would say it could be a nice little start jumping on point. But with the main range, I really struggle to find a starting point really. So I would say if you're good, just paying attention just to what's going on, as it can get a little bit of a confusing ride. And yeah, I'll just say that you don't really have you can't like the story. It does the good job of carrying on from previous stories, but also giving enough exposition to actually just have a basic idea of what happened and makes you want to go, oh yeah, I want to go and look back and have a look at what happened there. And I think that does it quite good. It's not really confusing. It doesn't just go bang straight on. We just come back from a crazy universe. This is Kara an alien. Yeah, deal it. It just gives it. It just lets the ease in. So yeah, I would say yes, go for it. But Big Finish in general, just go for Blood of the Daleks. That's a better one.
Yeah, I will agree with that fact that though it references the past, it also pushes the Eighth Doctor forward, so it's very good for driving the Eighth Doctor forward, so I can see a point of that. So, Matt.
I wouldn't call it the perfect jumping on point, but it's an alright one. I mean, they are. As for Big Finish in general, I think there are better ones out there, like The End, God of the Darks. Haven't listened to it, but a lot of people say that. But if you're a fan of McGann, if you're a fan of Davros, if you're interested in McGann and Davros, and if you like Remembrance of the Daleks, then you most definitely go for it. But I don't think it's probably the most ideal. It's a good one to start off with, I guess. But I started off with McGann Main Range with Storm Warning. I mean, it's a rare one to find. I know that, but it's I'm happy with that. I'm happy with Storm Warning because there's a lot of references to Storm Warning after that with like the R101 and stuff like that, and Charlie's arc really. So it's an alright one to start off with, Terra Firma. But I think there are better ones out there. But there's a lot of elements that people might like in Terra Firma. So if you're one of them, then go for it.
All right then, Tom.
Well, I would say no. If you're absolutely new to audios, then something like Terra Firma, a little bit more complicated, is not a wise decision. So I would say definitely go for something easier to listen to, so it doesn't have to be so jarring. Because if you go something to like Terra Firma being quite complicated, then it might be quite jarring to listen to. So something a lot more easier would be Blood of the Daleks. As it's just an absolutely brilliant story by Steve Lyons. It won't be jarring to listen to at all. It's just a fantastic story. It drives really quickly, and that's definitely the best place. Absolutely, it's not my favourite McGann, but it's absolutely the best place to start with a Eighth Doctor Orders. Or if you can track down Chimes of Midnight, I definitely recommend that, or get the download. And as well, the absolutely underrated Time Works, I would say track that one as well. But Terra Firma wouldn't be the one I would say would be a wise decision to start with.
For me, I think if you've got a couple of McGann main range stories under your belt, then do try it by all means, because, like I said, you do, even though I didn't have any. Well, I listened to Time Works before this, and I sort of knew about Keris, but I didn't know his backstory. But this story does give you a vague idea, and it doesn't alienate you, as some stories might just go, "Oh, this happened to Keris," and you're just like, "Wow, I didn't expect that." This does actually have a purpose of why Keris is like this. So, as for a recommendation, if you've got a couple of McGann stories under your belt, then yeah, do try it. But if you are looking into starting Big Finish, then this is quite a big story to start off with, and quite a grim story. It's not. I wouldn't say it's the best representation of what Big Finish can do with the Eighth Doctor. Like everyone's recommended, the Eighth Doctor range is probably the best place to start because of obviously it being in the new series style format. So I suppose to wrap this hangout up, let's give our overall ratings for the story. So let's see what James. I think we know what our James's rating is going to be.
This is still my favourite audiobook. Kind of just went down a little, because just on this re-listen, as I do think that Part 4, it's not really satisfying, but it is satisfying, but it kind of isn't, if you know what I mean. It just feels like, oh yeah, here's the Dalek, yeah, Daleks, fuck off, never come back to Earth, and then they just invade a bit later on. But yeah, with Terra Firma, I would have to give 9.5 out of 10, thus putting it on par with Remembrance of the Daleks, which is my favourite Dalek story in pretty much of all time. But yeah, I would probably say Terror Firma 9.5 out of 10, but still my favourite audio.
Okay, Matt.
7 out of 10.
Tom.
Yeah, I would say from listening to it way back when, it would be somewhere around like a 7, but did we listen to it if it turns out worse or better, or I don't know, but from the positives you brought up, it does sound like a cracking story, and I really have forgotten stuff. So yeah, I need to re-listen to it. I hope that I will prefer it than I dislike it even more, because that'll be horrible.
Yeah, for me, my mind's saying 8, but my heart's saying 7.5 or a 7. So I'm just going to go 7.5, so 7.5 Scotch eggs out of 10. So there we are. That concludes this throwback Big Finish review. Maybe in a couple of months we'll review another throwback story. And we'll see you in the next one, where we'll be looking at probably a modern release, quite a new release. So thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.
Bye bye.